Hey Kashish, welcome to the Plus One People Take. As you know, that we basically are trying to steer an agenda that how can technology uh, solve for people discovery the subject. And today we're going to be discussing about something very interesting and very basic, which is not really going to be about tools, about products, but what forms the core of a product, right? Which is search. Okay. So thanks for your time. Uh, so before we move on, can you tell us a bit about yourself, and more importantly, what are you solving these days?
Sure, Gaurav. So first of all, thanks a lot for having me here. It is a really pleasure having coming and talking to you. So, Gaurav, I am brought up and born and brought up in Delhi specifically, and I completed my graduation in 2021. Since then, I've been working as a technical recruiter. So it's been a journey of 2 years as of now, and
Mhm.
this journey comprises of working majorly with startup and product-based clients,
Awesome.
and along with that, I do have a bit of experience in in-house sourcing as well. And
Oh,
during this
nice.
journey, I have been involved in learning throughout the process, because this journey becomes a bit monotonous if you do not evolve as per the market. So
Absolutely.
that's all about me. I have been learning. I've been handling the situations which are currently a bit you can say out of the box in the market, and also involving myself into certain activities that keeps me in trend with the market as of now. So that's all
Awesome.
about me.
Good stuff. And I think I did get a chance to review a couple of searches what you've been kind of making, and how you took a couple of certifications to keep the learning curve. So this is pretty awesome stuff. So a question, right? So that, as I
Thanks.
said, that this primarily is more focused on not a specific tool, but what forms the root of a tool. That hey, how do I search? Okay, and there
Correct,
is this
yes.
division in the market at this point in time where uh, there is the set of audience which are more comfortable with a keyword based search, right? So which is more indexed, and then there is a set of audience which would want to a bit more programmatic about it, quote unquote. They talk about boolean, right? And then there is this audience
Correct.
which rely on this dark matter, I would say, where they use something like an X-ray, okay, and then there's certain tags which typically comes into play. So, what are your thoughts around it, right? So, according to you, as you've been experimenting, why are people, or what trigger a person's choice to use keyword versus Boolean versus an X-ray?
So I'll give you a very real life case example. So I
Uh,
started my journey with keyword search only.
uh,
And in the initial days when I was sourcing for
hmm,
generic kind of roles, so it felt like, yes, I'm learning and it's quite good. Why to go and understand something new if your tasks that is.
sure.
So what happens, the current mindset that freshers are fed up with is you just have to come, you have to hire and you have to close the role as soon
Wow.
as possible.
Okay.
So the
Even
learning
today.
curve, not today specifically, but as a fresher, I faced this. So the learning
Hmm.
curve or the mindset that we had, that we have to learn, switches from that you have to close the role or you have to meet the target specifically.
Hmm.
So when I initialized my journey, it was totally working with keyword search only, and
Hmm.
when I was interviewing with other companies as well. So but I saw, like, as a fresher, the boolean part was never focused or emphasized on. So it was
Okay.
more of a you can say the communication part of me, or the graduation, or the education part of me specifically.
Hmm. Hmm.
But later on, when I started more like getting more into this industry, when I started
Hmm.
working with niche roles,
Hmm.
interviewing and interacting with good folks in the market, then I
Hmm.
realized the need for boolean. So when
Hmm.
you use boolean and when you use a keyword search, there's a vast
Sure.
difference of the data you have. So many
Hmm.
days we hear that people are using free portals and they do not have any certain filters in those portals specifically.
Hmm.
So when you tap in the magic of boolean, you automatically filterize your results into a very relevant
Okay.
tool set. Along with
Hmm.
that, for a single role you can create n number of boolean strings. That's not in the case of the keywords. And whenever you
Sure.
experiment with the strings, whenever you do hit and trial methods, the
Hmm.
customization, the flexibility you get in booleans is immense. And also boolean also gives you a chance to understand the role in depth, how deep you understand the role. And also when you use AI with boolean, then how efficient that AI platform is only possible whenever when you have a very deep understanding of Boolean as well. And also
Absolutely.
now, with AI and all those technologies, market being a bit more dynamic, Google X-ray, Google custom search engines, is these kind of programs are also coming into play. And I personally enrolled myself into that, and it was life changing experience for me specifically, because
Very nice.
but the mindset we had specifically, that we were totally platform dependent. We couldn't
Hmm.
work if we didn't have any paid premium membership of any
Hmm.
platform. Once I
Hmm.
was able to tap in through those technologies, then I feel that I can work anywhere without any platform. It's just the
Got
basic
it.
Boolean skill sets I require, and all the free material that is available on this open web. So just a tap
Got
in,
it.
and then you can just grasp all those particular profiles for you which you require. So
Got it.
that's my experience.
Got it. So what I hear is two parts to it, right? So one is conditioning, how we
Correct.
have been conditioned and exposed. And that's why,
Mhm.
because there are certain tools which used to kind of play and they used to work on a certain approach, that's why a certain search became the go to choice. And eventually it evolved, and that has been going like since ever, right? Awesome.
Correct. Yes.
So let me share another perspective with you, right? So uh, now if I try and get into the algorithmic aspect of the way a search works, right?
Hmm.
So a keyword search is more indexed onto a document kind of a template, right?
Correct.
Now, what it does is, like in a very layman time language, a program is able to run through a document, do a control C, and possibly a control F, right? And then the program is able
Mhm.
to highlight those words, which gives a illusion that if someone has worked on these keywords and the count is equal to maximum, you know, that's a great search, right? That's one way.
Correct. Yes.
If I just talk about Boolean, Boolean was another extension which brought in programmatic logic using and or not operator, and we say Boolean logic, right? So where you can marry two operators, where you can exclude a certain keyword, where you can also put logic that if this exists or that exists, right? A very very foundational block of the way any algorithm or any complex code is written these days, right? So where you can put multiple for loop iterations using an or loop to be specific, right? And then
Correct.
third
Yes.
is X-ray, which typically works in a very different fashion, where the entire web page
Hmm.
is divided into three or four sections. You're going to be your heading, you're going to be having a URL, you're going to be having certain tags, you're going to be having a certain set of keywords which is indexed into one kind of template, right? So that's why you use certain tags like inside and in URL. Okay. Now,
Correct.
with this
Yes.
algorithmic approach happening, okay, uh, and I understand that while a certain search parameter gives you more flexibility, but at any point in time, all of us have a finite mind space to think through, right? Uh, so while you talked about that you can play infinite number of iterations in a Boolean logic, but my question is, uh, how many people are really comfortable with that? Because as you talked about, while conditioning is there and still prevails today, uh,
Mhm.
most of the people are more relying on keyword based search versus understanding what the context is, understanding in terms of how certain role dynamics typically work. You break down into smaller components and then try and see what works for you. But said that knack of someone thinking or solving that problem of a complex job description into possibly
Hmm.
a 150 characters boolean is also finite, right? So
Correct.
any thoughts in terms of how can someone graduate to this role where he or she can do infinite combinations versus, because everyone will not be able to think of infinite combinations, right? So people will
Correct.
uh, I'll give you an example. So people will try X keyword, Y keyword, X and Y, and then they will just think, circle around it. So my question is that do you also think that it is just not really a keyword, but also the context, and possibly that can help someone to try these infinite combinations, or the or the other way around?
No, I generally feel I also, as a recruiter, lagged a very clear understanding about the role I hired for, specifically in
mm,
the initial journey. So
mm,
that particular mindset or that particular situation leads
ah,
to a very stringent kind of string. We cannot experiment because we do not have any idea about what kind of role we are hiring for. The keywords
ah,
are limited because
mm,
that's what where the thinking goes. And specifically when we start playing with Boolean and when we do not have a clear understanding of the roles we are having, then the
sure.
Boolean itself doesn't fetch any good results. So then the
Fair
recruiter
enough.
thinks, let's switch back to keyword. Why to invest time? Why to do hit and trial when we are not getting the relevant results? So that's a very, you can say, a very uh, primitive kind of thinking that I also used to carry. I just thought of just giving a very simple glimpse to JD and just fetching out some important deals and
Sure,
then going
sure,
on for a search. But later
sure.
on, after, as I mentioned, I've been experimenting, I've been investing my time as well with some good folks. So what
Mm,
I understood that as people have good reading habits, the time they invest reading in a novel, specific page, going through every detail, that is how you
mm,
have to read your JD. You have to understand if this skill set is there, and if
mm,
this hadn't been there, what could be replaced by this. So a deep understanding about the role. And I still remember a certain example given by someone when I was attending his live session. So he mentioned, so if in case I myself is given a responsibility to hire a technical recruiter, right?
mm,
So if in case the skill sets mention that the recruiter should be proficient LinkedIn, Naukri, these kind of platforms, Google
mm,
X, and also the recruiter should have experience with Excel sheets or Google Docs, these kind of things as well. So whenever I'm making my strings, I won't be using these terminologies,
mm.
Google Docs or
Sure.
Google Access, because I know that's the part and play or the daily activity kind of thing that we do. So that's the
Yeah.
understanding I have the role, right? So I won't
Mm,
could experiment because I know what the role demands for and what's the daily activities and what's the additional skills that makes recruiter stand out from other recruiter. But if in
mm,
case I'm doing a similar thing in a technical domain, I'm hiring for a software developer. There are additional
mm,
skills. If I do not have a clear understanding about what I'm looking out for, then it
mm.
basically goes to a simple keywords kind of search, and which
Fair
restricts
enough.
us to move around Boolean and do hit and trial with Boolean specifically. So this is what I used to,
Mm,
and this is what I think is the primary factor. People
got it.
working with keywords specifically.
Mm. Let me also share another perspective with you, Kashish. And
Hmm.
thanks for being honest and sharing that insight in terms of why it works and why it doesn't really work, right? Uh, Now, with all these innovations happening around technology, right, and when the base search algorithm is kind of changing, and the way all these third-party tools are also coming in, which talks about extension or a third-party
Correct.
software plugged onto your page. So I'll share with you three perspective what is happening at this point in time, right? So a lot of these pages are now changing the entire structure, right? Which means possibly the the experience have been swapped, right?
Hmm.
Possibly the meta structure or the meta tag for headline section is kind of changed. If I'm just talking about public data, right? The second perspective is uh, innovation coming in technology, right? So I'll give an example. So I look at it as a zero and one, like a binary problem. Okay. Now, uh, a document is a document, right? And from that document, which could possibly have probably 300 uh, characters, correct? And from the
Hmm.
302 characters, we take out these possibly 5 or 10 which make sense to us as a construct, right? Now, that's a binary thing, okay? Which means
Correct.
that
Yes.
here is a search. Now I can think and write. I'm talking about an algorithmic way of searching, which is around Boolean, correct?
Hmm.
Now, but with innovation of technology coming into play, and I mean, I can vouch for a couple of AI models. Uh, okay, so before I come to AI models, so have you heard of these tools like as recruiting?
Yes. Yes. Definitely.
Okay,
I've heard about
so
these
yeah,
tools.
so what they do is you input X, you input Y, and I'll be able to kind of create a programmatic search out of it, right? It's a very
Correct.
simple
I
thing to kind of
myself
go
have
about it.
used that tool once or
Awesome.
twice.
So when I say binary, what I meant is that you gave a zero as an so-called input, and you get one as an output. As simple as that,
Correct. Yes.
right?
Mhm.
Now, that's a very binary way of looking at things. But with AI coming into play, it's getting more smarter, more matured, and there are these large language models which are trying to train data. Do you foresee a future where there will not be any need for an individual to learn on all of these? Because again, it's finite, right? So I can only think of finite use cases. Because look at me, I've got pressure on me to submit on time. I've got a pressure on me to to talk or engage with someone. I've also got to finish my timelines or my delivery targets over a month, right? Right.
Correct.
So I'll have this finite time space, and then this volume of
Hmm.
roles kind of coming in my way. Do you foresee a future where AI will be able to read all these patterns, not in a binary fashion like a typical search builder works, but will be able to understand your input and possibly create a billion automatically, which possibly could mean assuming and already accommodating similar titles and similar industry set and similar skills or complementary skills or related skills, correct? Do you foresee a future?
Understood. So definitely seeing how the technology is giving a shot right now in the market, anything can happen in the future. And also, as you mentioned, tools coming into play. I myself, I have used a couple of tools right now. So they definitely are switching and upgrading from a
Hmm.
keyword to a boolean kind of search. These tools themselves are promoting that kind of searches, and
Hmm.
definitely those strings I would say are relevant. And in
Hmm.
the future, I do believe that yes, these things could be switched by AI. But as a believer of a learner and specifically having an open mindset, what I believe that with these tools you should have a basic understanding that what this tool
Absolutely.
is to you or what the output this tool is giving to you. Talking about the recruiting.net, the tool which you spoke about, I myself used that tool. So when I
Hmm.
didn't have any understanding of Boolean, I was very impressed
Hmm.
with the tool. Wow, what a string!
Hmm.
But when
Hmm.
I gathered some knowledge around Boolean, then I realized that that was a very basic string that a particular tool
Correct.
gave.
Because it's
The tool,
binary.
yes,
So
yes, yes,
they will not really give you any recommendation. So if you put in
correct,
A, B, C, D, E, F, they will just put an and or an or not basis your.
correct.
So you basically are giving it like a hard coded input. But I'm imagining a world. So for example, right, you write that I'm looking for X, currently working with Y, and earlier working with Z, and currently
Hmm,
managing. So you know what I'm trying to do is like a sentence which can have seven different conditions.
correct, yes.
But a language model can interpret these conditions, which can have seven different variables, do
Hmm,
this one killer search, and then replicate it, just like
correct.
possibly human would do. And more importantly, it can also iterate programmatically.
And definitely, this will be happening in a couple of years. This is what I believe.
Hmm.
I've been seeing a couple of folks coming and solving the basic problem in this industry that we folks are facing as of now. And the tools that are coming right now in the market are pretty much upgraded from what we used to do a couple of years back. So this I feel
Yeah,
is something that can be achieved. And as you talked about, like 7 to 8 normal sentences or normal scenarios that we give to AI, and it comes up with a flashy string that is the most relevant one for us. So definitely, once we start working on these platforms, and
yeah,
if machine learning is fed up, so what we call as contextual understanding and
yeah, yeah,
your past histories and what kind of people you're interacting with, definitely the machine can learn this and they can recommend you awesome results. So
absolutely.
I
Yeah,
definitely believe this could be achieved, and this can be seen in couple of years. But yes, your basic understanding should be there along with these two, so that you understand what you're
yeah. So I'll give you another example of what is happening in real world as we speak, right? So, and it is not
doing.
recruiting centric; it's a different business case which is more sales centric, right? So if you see, and again, I'm talking about a 0-1-2 approach where a lot of fixation used to come from editors and these content writers that what, hey, AI is taking away my job, right?
Correct.
But
Yes.
with Gemini and with ChatGPT and all of these different AI models coming into play,
Hmm.
which could generate text on just a prompt, uh, they'll be able to generate a lot of content on its own, define tonality, so on and so forth. But the beauty is, while an engine can be trained, but the input to that engine is given by someone who is a rock star in probably developing those contents, right?
Correct, correct.
And that is happening with a company called as, there are many, so there's something called as papertype.io. And just imagine, if the community can create as an influx to a
Mhm.
language model like that, right? Which means that whatever knowledge which is lying in these verticals, or only with these specific people today, I see a lot of these people in the US and in Europe who are very proficient in writing those complex programmatic searches. I see a lot. Some people now in India, who are kind of growing up with that ecosystem, but just look at it this way: any which ways, the knowledge is going to be sitting with verticalized with these people. But if this
Correct.
knowledge can be fed into a model like that, just imagine what kind of throughput it can create. A language model which can understand the language which you and I speak, but can generate a prompt in terms of searches considering all different permutation combination which possibly human mind cannot think.
Correct, 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 correct. That
Hmm.
is a very brilliant idea, I would say. And if that could be achieved, then I believe the recruitment industry would be shifting from tools, that is the current market as of now, because people are majorly talking about tools, to a communication side of things. How to make ROI on the communication side, how to interact, how to
हाँ
negotiate.
यार, वो
I
एक अलग
think
चैलेंज है.
that would shift the industry to a different model of operation, because abhi industry mates, the major talks are only about tools, about AI. But once that is achieved, once, as you mentioned, once machine learns those kind of inputs given by top tier recruiters in the market, then the market would change
Hmm.
specifically. This is what I believe.
Awesome. Hey, hey, thanks, man. And this is what we do, right? So, like, sweet and short and crisp. What are going to be your recommendation and plus ones to people who are hearing you at this point in time? How can they embrace this change, right? And we are assuming that this technology is already in brew, with someone at some point in time and to kind of come out and just blast off the world. While
Correct.
few call outs which you think that people should be a little aware of, that while you embrace this change, what is something which will not be taken away from you.
So, as you know, what I believe in the end, talking about the recruitment industry specifically, so it's all about
Hmm.
human touch, it's all about human interaction.
Yep.
So, how you enter into a comfort zone of your candidate, how well
Hmm.
you treat them, and what's the experience that you give them throughout the journey.
Fair enough.
That's an
Hmm.
important factor, because I still remember I was working with one organization, and my founder told me कि कशिश ये लिंक्डइन नौकरी तो आते जाते रहेंगे, अपना लिंक्डइन अपना नेटवर्क ऐसे बना कि तेरे को जरूरत ना पड़े किसी भी नेटवर्क की. So then I realized that the network I'm building on my LinkedIn, the network I'm creating while interacting with the candidates, that's something everlasting if I embrace that. So since then I started
Hmm.
treating each and every candidate as a
Hmm.
relevant candidate for me. If in case he's not searching for a job this time, definitely he'll be looking out in future. So अब इतने
Yep.
recruiters हैं market में, how will he remember me? So वो नाम होना चाहिए कि यार कशिश से बात करनी, he's a very honest and transparent recruiter.
Yep.
So
I
that's
agree.
a
I agree.
specific mindset that cannot be replaced by AI, and that would be an everlasting thing in this industry. So if we start encouraging and realizing the power of that particular part of the process, then definitely you're irreplaceable in the market.
Fair enough. I think super killer and strong reflections, Kashish. It was lovely chatting up, and
Thanks a lot,
thanks
Gaurav.
for your
Same here.
time again. Hope we are able to kind of create this 1% change in the way people think and propagate this idea. But it was lovely talking.
Thanks, Gaurav. Same here.
Thanks, too.
Yeah.
Thank you.